Important note: Hello class. Today we'll learn about cryptographic checksums. Let's start by examining what a cryptographic checksum is, also known as message authentication codes. Checksums are primarily used to detect errors during network transmission. However, they're not suitable for data authentication. This is because different messages can easily produce the same checksum value. Instead, we can use symmetric encryption to generate secure checksums for reliable data authentication. Let's examine a cryptographic checksum based on encryption algorithm E. Let E denote the AES-128 encryption algorithm, where K is the key. Each message block M is 128 bits long. We define an E-based checksum function. The operation processes M by applying E to each MI block. Then compute the checksum of M. This involves encrypting HM using key K. With the AES-128 algorithm. However, this method is not secure. It remains vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attacks. Consider this example. Suppose Alice and Bob share an AES-128 key K. If Alice sends a message, let's say she sends. What exactly is this message? The message is M, along with the encryption of M using key K, sent to Bob to verify the authenticity of message M. If an attacker intercepts this communication, they can then use the encrypted version of M to impersonate Alice. Let's examine how this impersonation attack works. Here, let's consider a message M, where M consists of components Y1 through YL, representing arbitrary values. Each component T is a 128-bit binary string. Now Y is defined as Y equals Y1, Y2, Y2, XOR L with Y, then XOR with Y again. Apply hash function H to plain text M to obtain the hash value. Let's define M2 prime, where M2 prime equals M1 prime, concatenated with Y. Therefore, the attacker sends M2 prime and EKM to user B. User B, once receiving the message, it first computes the value by calculating M2 using a hash function and performing XOR operations. Let's examine the XOR result. Y1, Y2, YN. What's the result? The result is performing an operation on M. Sure, an XOR operation. As you can see, the attacker actually sent M2. This plain text, M2, and the original M are completely different. It's M1 concatenated with Y. However, when testing M2 during verification, we found that it produced the same verification result as the original plain text M. In other words, an attacker could use message M2 prime to successfully impersonate user A when sending to user B, causing user B to, when they mistakenly believe message M2 comes from Alice. In reality, it's actually created by an attacker. Let's examine cryptographic checksums and their design requirements. Let's define MAC as the message authentication code, where K is the key. This MAC must meet the following requirements. First property, forward computation. What does forward computation mean? It means computing MCAM. This process is computationally feasible. The second property, reverse computation resistance. What is reverse computation resistance? It means trying to work backwards from MCAM to derive the original message M. In other words, given the MAC value and the cryptographic checksum, attempting to recover the original message M, it must be computationally difficult. Now let's examine another security requirement, known as computational infeasibility. What does computational infeasibility mean? It means that given a message M and its corresponding cryptographic checksum, it should be difficult to find a different message M, where this M is different from the original M, but both messages produce the cryptographic checksum values are identical. Finding such an M is computationally infeasible. This is known as the computational infeasibility requirement. Another requirement is uniform distribution, where K represents the MAC length, M is the random input data, and M. Let's consider M, where M is different from M. It's also randomly selected data, or derived through transformation of M. Now, if their authentication codes are equal, that is, if the MAC of M and the MAC of M, what's the probability they would be identical? It's 2. If this probability condition is satisfied, then we can conclude it meets the uniform distribution requirement. Let's examine how to build a cryptographic checksum. It's worth noting that no one has found an algorithm meeting all 4 criteria for a cryptographic checksum. However, we can create one using the following approach. By combining encryption algorithms with one-way hash functions into a single system. First, we hash the data. After hashing, then apply the encryption algorithm. This method creates a standard cryptographic checksum. This resulting checksum mechanism effectively meets real-world requirements. Now, let's examine the Data Authentication Code. In 1985, NIT developed a Data Authentication Code, known as DAC, based on the using CBC mode. Let M be M1, M2, MK, where M is a 60-bit binary string, K is the key length, where E denotes the DES encryption. Now, let's see how we generate the authentication code. First, we process M1 using DES to obtain C. Then, for each subsequent message block MI, we combine it with CI through a simple operation. After this combination, we apply DES encryption to produce CI. The final output is CK. CK represents a data authentication code for message M. However, when DES security was compromised, DAC was superseded by a new authentication method, HMAC. Let's explore HMC, also known as hash-based message authentication code. What's the principle behind it? The key information is combined with the data, then using a hash function to generate the hash value. HMAC is a cryptographic algorithm with specific requirements. First, any hash function can be directly embedded. Second, the hash function in HMC must be cryptographic. It must be one-way and possess collision resistance among other fundamental properties. The third requirement, the key implementation, must be straightforward and easy to implement. The fourth requirement, the security strength of HMC, is directly proportional to the security of the underlying hash function. Let's examine the HMC algorithm. But before we dive into the algorithm, let's start with some variable definitions. Starting with H. H represents which is our embedded hash function. We can implement either SG512 or the Whirlpool hash function. Next, S, which stands for initialization vector, a parameter required by our hash function. M represents our input, which is the message we need to authenticate. Represents the number of blocks in our message. The lowercase l, on the other hand, represents the output length of our hash function. The lowercase b represents the number of bits in a message block, which is always a multiple of 8, which equals b, where b 大于等于 n. The key K represents our encryption key with length, then K padded with zeros, concatenated together, then append key K. This defines K. It's K with prefix padding. Its length is B. Now for iPad. iPad's definition. It contains B/8 identical strings, concatenated sequentially, making its total length equal to B. Next, let's examine OPAD. OPAD is composed of a specific pattern, with B over 8 repetitions of this pattern, concatenated together. Therefore, OPAD's length is also B bytes. Now let's examine. What is the definition of K0'? It's K XORed with iPad. Next, let's look at K1. What's K1? KE XOR OPD. Alright, now that we've covered the variable definitions, let's move on to examine how HMC works. It's straightforward. Here's the formula. Let's see. How does it work? Now we have the plain text message that we'll process. To calculate its HMC, first, we take the plain text and concatenate it with K01 to create a new string. Inside K01, we have K1, and within K1, we find the secret key K. So in essence, K01 actually contains information about the secret key K. We take the secret key K and the original plain text M, and after concatenating these two elements, we perform a hash operation. Once that's done, we then concatenate it with K11'. Let's examine K11. K11' contains K1', and K1' contains the secret key K. In other words, our K11' ultimately contains, which also incorporates key K. Then, after concatenating both strings, we apply another hash function. The resulting hash value serves as authentication for plain text M, generating the final HMAC output. This concludes our overview of cryptographic checksums. That covers all the key points. Thank you for your attention.